America was once hailed as the land of opportunity, and many of us believed that if we tried hard enough, the government would support the rest and the dream would come true.
I was saved by God to make America great again.
What's happening with Elon Musk and Donald Trump and the undermining of our democracy.
Congress is the entity in this country that is supposed to decide how money gets appropriated.
But it seems that this is no longer true. Thousands of protests are taking place all over the United States. Millions of people took to the streets to protest the government's policies. From cutting social welfare budgets, causing veterans and the elderly to lose important support, to continuously raising interest rates, making housing, vehicles, and even daily necessities unaffordable. Small businesses and residents in many states are bearing the heavy consequences. In this video, let's explore the emotional story of the 10 states facing the most severe crises, where the lives of the people have completely changed in a short period of time. If you have lived long enough to see the golden age of America, then what is about to be revealed may cause you some distress. Small businesses and residents in many states are bearing the heavy consequences. In this video, let's explore the emotional story of the 10 states facing the most severe crises, where the lives of the people have completely changed in a short period of time. If you have lived long enough to see the golden age of America, then what is about to be revealed may cause you some distress. Do you remember California from the past? When this place was still considered a symbol of the American dream, full of energy, opportunity, and hope. Hundreds of thousands of people flock here to start a new life, build businesses, and find a place to settle down without worrying too much about the future. But now, California is on the brink of crisis, with a plummeting economy and living costs spiraling out of control. When Trump and Musk pursued the America First policy aggressively, they strained relations with key partners such as Canada, Mexico, the EU, and China. Canada, once the largest supplier of crude oil to the U.S., is now cutting back on its supply. Mexico, a pillar of the agricultural and assembly supply chains, has been taxed, leading to rising prices. Europe, where Tesla once expanded, is now tightening the market, affecting exports. Businesses in California, from tech companies to food processing firms, are caught in high costs and a shrinking market. Many places are forced to lay off employees or raise prices, placing the heaviest burden on consumers, especially the elderly. Last year, more than 500,000 people left California, the highest number in the state's history. What made them leave what was once the promised land? Terry Gillum, who lived in the San Francisco Bay Area for 35 years, left 3 years ago. He listed the main reasons why more and more people no longer want to stay in California.
It was the cost of living and the politics, traffic, homelessness, crime, everything that has gotten worse and worse over California, and the solutions that they proposed only made things worse.
Most people are saying
rents are astronomical in California, so it's not just buying a house, it's renting a house.
Look at Los Angeles, home to the Hollywood film capital, billionaires with enormous fortunes, a city that was once a symbol of prosperity. But today, more than 170,000 homeless people are living on the sidewalks, pitching tents in parks, and sleeping right in front of permanently closed stores. The central areas, once bustling with family restaurants and grocery stores, are now filled with for lease signs. Small business owners who once worked tirelessly to build their careers now have to give up their dreams because they cannot bear the high taxes and operating costs. What about the elderly? They are the ones who are most heavily affected. According to data from Zillow, home prices in California have surpassed $900,000, increasing by 6.4% in just the past year. The rental prices are no more bearable. The average rent in California has reached $3,300 per month, far exceeding the affordability of those living on Social Security benefits. Recently, a sales tax increase has just taken effect in Los Angeles County. Although this is the result of Measure A, which was passed to fund programs supporting the homeless. However, many people remain skeptical about the effectiveness of this measure. And in the context of rising living costs, many shoppers believe that this increase will make a significant difference in daily spending.
That just
doesn't seem to be getting a lot better. It seems to be getting worse, and I don't know that this is going to make it that much better.
These concerns have intensified after a recent audit revealed that the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority could not account for the use of nearly $2.5 billion in anti-homelessness budget. Many people feel skeptical when they don't know what their tax money is being used for. However, the most heartbreaking thing is not just the numbers. It is the feeling of helplessness of those who once contributed to society, who built California into the economic and cultural center of America. If the current policies do not change, if the government does not find ways to help workers, the elderly, and small businesses, then California may no longer be the Golden State as it once was, but merely a beautiful memory in the minds of those who once lived and loved this land. New York has always been a special city. Not only is it a center of finance, culture, and politics, but it is also a place millions of Americans call home. A bustling place full of opportunities, but also increasingly difficult to live in, especially for those trying to survive on an average salary or a fixed pension. If you have lived in New York for more than 20 years, you will feel the change very clearly. It's not just the denser car horns or the skyrocketing rent prices outpacing inflation, but the feeling that the government is becoming more distant, no longer listening to the basic needs of the people. The price of housing in the city continues to rise uncontrollably. Property taxes, living expenses, and healthcare costs are all rising. Seniors living on Social Security, whether in Manhattan or the suburbs of Buffalo, are having to choose a more frugal lifestyle, even though they were once pillars of society not long ago. And the root of many of those problems actually starts with policies. When Trump and Musk pursued a confrontational stance with global partners, from Canada to the European Union, from Mexico to China, the world did not remain silent. The EU responded by imposing tariffs on American goods, especially pharmaceuticals, electronic components, and technology products, sectors in which New York plays a central role. Canada reduced investment in the cross-border logistics system, causing New York, the state bordering Canada, to lose the benefits of import, export, and regional trade. And the ones who ultimately suffer as usual are the people. Recently, many elderly people in New York have shared that they have to wait from 6 to 8 weeks to receive their tax refunds, solely because IRS staff have been cut due to federal austerity measures. Many people living alone, not using the internet, and not familiar with technology now have to call multiple times without anyone answering. Workers, both current and retired, feel demoralized by the government's handling of this issue.
I think it's sickening. I think it's needless. I think it's destructive.
For those living in old rental apartments in Brooklyn, Queens, or the Bronx, having their housing assistance cut or their subsidy applications denied is no longer uncommon. Meanwhile, the prices of groceries at the nearby store continue to rise, little by little and consistently. And if you are the owner of a small shop, a laundromat, a cafe, a repair shop, you will understand what is called suffocating from taxes and fixed costs. While large corporations are deducted millions of USD, small businesses have to pay taxes almost at the maximum rate. And every time you apply for assistance, the answer is often, the budget is exhausted. The tax policy in New York seems to increasingly favor the wealthy, while poor workers face budget cuts in social welfare, delays in tax refunds, reduced housing support, and more. New York has gone through many crises, from the 2008 financial crisis to the COVID-19 pandemic, and has always recovered strongly. But this time, the recession seems more severe, when financial policies keep changing and the government lacks a reasonable support strategy. Even the largest economic centers can collapse. What do you think about the current state of New York? Have you ever seen signs of change in your city? Please share your story. Texas has long been regarded as a land of loyalty, dedication, and self-reliance. This is also the state with the highest number of veterans in the United States, those who once donned military uniforms and placed their lives in the hands of their country. However, perhaps they have never felt as lonely as they do now. While Mexico tightens cheap labor sources and imposes high taxes on goods, increasing production costs in South Texas. Canada restricts oil exports, causing refineries to lose a stable source of raw materials. China has imposed retaliatory tariffs on electronic components and machinery, forcing many technology and manufacturing businesses in Texas to scale back. A series of businesses are laying off workers, closing factories, especially in traditional labor areas like El Paso, Houston, Fort Worth. And the people directly affected? It's not the CEOs sitting in air-conditioned offices, but rather the veterans living on VA pensions, the elderly relying on Medicare, the workers who once believed in the promise that America will not abandon its own. Besides, as part of Project 2025, a series of budget-cutting policies for the Department of Veterans Affairs are being intensified. Many veteran healthcare facilities in Texas have had to reduce operating hours, cut staff, and even close completely. Katie Weber-Linhard, a veteran who served in the military, shared that she currently relies on the VA for medical care, but is concerned that staff layoffs and budget cuts could threaten her physical and mental health.
For people who are already suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, the fear is real.
Our VA care is being cut, our VA support's being cut. Unbelievable to us. It's totally against everything we fought for in this country.
For young people, the VA might just be a medical center with few visitors. But for many elderly veterans, this is the only place where they receive free medical care, the only place where someone calls their full name and asks, "How are you feeling today?" Not just limited to VA, Medicare has also faced budget cuts, and the SNAP Food Assistance Program in Texas has decreased by more than 12% compared to 2020. The elderly, low-income workers, and single mothers, once considered the backbone of the community, now have to turn to churches and charities for additional food or medicine. Public education in Texas is also not immune to the wave of cuts. Many schools in rural districts lack teachers, even buses, and no longer have enough classes to support students with special needs. If you are a grandparent raising your grandchildren or a parent with school-age children, you will understand the exhaustion of no longer being able to rely on schools for a better future for your children. Some people might say, Texas is a strong place, the people here know how to take care of themselves. That's true, but when even the strongest, the veterans, the workers, the caregivers, have to succumb to policies, then it is no longer a personal issue. We can debate politics, but no one can deny that those who have served the nation deserve to be served in return, not with promises, but with actual service. Can Texas find a way out? Do you think the government needs to make adjustments to help businesses and citizens overcome this crisis? Please share your opinion. If there is a place considered a retirement paradise in the U.S., it is Florida, a place with year-round sunshine, blue seas, and relatively affordable living costs, all of which once made Florida an ideal choice for millions of elderly people wanting to spend their final years in peace. But this has changed. Many elderly residents in Florida are feeling that their retirement dreams are being stifled, not by the weather, but by a series of recently implemented federal and macroeconomic policies. They used to come here for the affordable prices, but the government is disappointing them. Each policy, each decision is causing the prices of food, electricity, water, and housing insurance to rise rapidly in recent years, especially after the inflation wave of 2021 to 2022. In addition, the reduction of Medicare and community health services has also caused many free clinics, neighborhood health rooms, or drug assistance programs to cease operations due to budget cuts. And for those living on Social Security or a 401k fund, maintaining a stable standard of living has become more difficult than ever. With the aging population increasing, while the care workforce is not expanding accordingly, many elderly people find themselves without caregivers or waiting in long lines for services. An elderly woman in Jacksonville shared, "I used to think retiring in Florida would be a reward after a lifetime of work. But now, every month I have to choose between paying for medicine and paying for electricity." But Florida's problems don't stop there. While real estate corporations receive tax incentives to build luxury resorts, affordable housing programs for low-income individuals are being reduced. Many elderly people, who had lived stably for many years, now face the risk of having to leave their homes simply because rent has increased and subsidies are no longer sufficient. Florida is still beautiful, still warm, but more and more people feel that the sunshine here is no longer enough to dispel the anxiety every time they open a bill in the mailbox. We don't need a perfect policy. We only need a policy that understands those who have contributed to society when they are older deserve to live with the respect and support they need. If you are living in Florida and feel that these things apply to your situation, please leave a comment. Share your story, because who knows, that very story might make someone in the government listen. There was a time when, if you walked into a factory in Detroit, Flint, or Grand Rapids, you would hear the bustling sounds of machinery and the chatter of workers. But today, many of those factories have closed. Many industrial streets have become deserted. And many families who once had 3 generations working in the automotive industry are now wondering, can we still hold on to anything from the old days? Michigan is not just a place for car manufacturing. It used to be the heart of the American labor economy. But that heart is being stifled, not only by globalization, but also by a series of policies from the federal government that have inadvertently pushed people into a difficult situation. The policy of imposing import tariffs from Canada, Mexico, and Europe has severely impacted the automotive industry in Michigan. Components have become more expensive, production lines have slowed down, companies have cut orders, workers have lost their jobs. Tesla, GM, and other major companies are shifting their investments to other states or abroad to optimize costs. The old factories are no longer being reinvested in, leading to large-scale job losses, especially for middle-aged workers and mid-level engineers. High interest rates due to the Fed's tightening policy prevent small businesses and households from borrowing funds to survive or start anew. Meanwhile, retirees are losing money in their pension funds due to the decline in stocks in the manufacturing, automotive, and energy sectors. They didn't lose everything, but they lost enough to live with anxiety. In fact, green policies, electric vehicles, emissions reduction, energy transition may be good for the environment in the long run. But for the people of Michigan today, what they see most clearly is factories closing, jobs disappearing, and new vocational training programs never arriving in time. Michigan does not want to live in the past, but if they want to step into the future, the people here need to be prepared, need to be supported so they won't be left behind. Pennsylvania used to be the industrial backbone of America. Steel, coal, machinery, industries that once fed millions of families and built small towns scattered throughout the state. You might be the child of a steel mill worker or the grandchild of a miner, and you still remember the image of calloused hands, the deep laughter, and the simple yet proud dinner. But currently, most of those sectors are being excluded from development policies. Not because the workers are incompetent, but because they no longer fit into a vision that many call too fast, too detached from reality. Green energy policies are causing the coal and metallurgy industries to lose their standing. Thousands of jobs have been cut, and the industrial town has fallen silent. The government. There is no clear career transition roadmap, leading to middle-aged workers being unable to learn technology in just a few weeks of training, yet they are pressured to adapt on their own or disappear from the market. Public services like Medicare, housing assistance, and retirement insurance have been cut, forcing the elderly to rely on their grandchildren, who are also struggling to find jobs. Meanwhile, high bank interest rates are preventing local businesses from continuing to invest or expand. Small towns are losing shops that have existed for decades. Pennsylvania does not ask for preferential treatment, but the people here need respect in policy, a policy that does not abandon those who have shouldered the economy for the past half-century. Not everyone wants to become an AI engineer, programmer, or data expert. Many people just want to continue the manual work they excel at, live simply, and give their children the opportunity to go further. But if the government doesn't help them maintain their current position, then their entire family will also lose the dream of tomorrow. Oregon has always been known as a peaceful place with vast green forests, distant snow-capped mountains, and a slower pace of life compared to major cities. For many people, especially the elderly, living in Oregon means choosing a simple life, close to nature, away from the hustle and bustle of modern times. However, even that seemingly peaceful place can no longer maintain its inherent tranquility. Not only the climate, but the entire community service system in Oregon is also shrinking, bit by bit. the small community health stations, elderly care centers, and even the places providing free meals for the homeless are all operating on a limited basis due to the social budget cuts under the 2025 project. The elderly here, who are usually quiet and do not complain, now have to say, "We used to choose to live in a quiet place." But now, it is the very quietness that makes us feel forgotten. In Oregon, the number of homeless people is rapidly increasing, not only because of rising rent prices, but also due to the reduction of housing assistance and food subsidies. For retirees or those living alone, keeping a small, cozy apartment on the outskirts of town is now a significant effort. No one wants to be treated specially. Oregonians just want to be heard, even in a small town where there aren't many votes, but where many have quietly contributed their whole lives. Arizona used to be the ideal place to slow down after a lifetime of hard work. The sun wasn't too harsh, houses were once affordable, and the elderly community was friendly. These were the reasons thousands of people chose Arizona as their final stop. But if you are living here, especially in recent years, you might also notice that things are no longer as pleasant as before. Since the federal government began tightening social budgets and enforcing stricter immigration controls, Arizona has started to feel the tangible impacts, not through numbers, but through small stories in daily life. The shortage of immigrant labor is severely affecting agriculture, logistics, and even care services. Elderly people who used to receive help with cleaning, buying medicine, and transportation now have to take care of themselves or hire someone at a much higher cost. Food and service costs are rising, but SNAP and housing assistance programs have been significantly cut. Retirees living on Social Security are having to choose between medication and food. Public health stations in rural areas are being reduced, forcing the elderly to travel farther and wait longer just to receive basic checkups. Many people living alone without a car or unfamiliar with technology find it difficult to schedule appointments online. The summer heat in Arizona has never been a big issue, when people have cool accommodations and full care services. But now, with a series of programs cut, many people have to live in apartments without air conditioning or manage on their own when the temperature reaches 110 degrees Fahrenheit. No one opposes border protection. No one denies the need for budget management. But the worrying thing is, those policies are hurting people who have nothing to do with politics. The elderly living alone, retired veterans, and those who just want a safe life in their old age. The Arizona community still maintains its bond and optimistic spirit, but clearly, without appropriate support policies, it will be those who once trusted the system who will be the first to suffer. If you ask longtime residents of Wisconsin, they will tell you, here, people don't like to complain. People work, and that's true. From cornfields, dairy factories to manufacturing workshops, the people of Wisconsin are symbols of a culture of hard work, frugality, and self-reliance. But those quiet people in recent years have been bearing the clear consequences of decisions they had no part in. Federal budget cuts under Project 2025 have affected many healthcare, education, and food assistance programs. The elderly and low-income individuals in rural districts have to travel farther for medical checkups or simply skip them altogether. The cost of living has increased, while wages have not kept pace, forcing many middle-class families to cut back on even basic needs such as car repairs, buying medicine, or supporting their children in college. The manufacturing sector is affected by tax policies with Canada and other countries, leading to increased production costs, reduced orders, and many jobs at risk of being replaced. High interest rates also make it harder for people to buy homes, while rental costs continue to rise. In rural areas like Eau Claire or Green Bay, community centers, which once held skill classes and health consultations for the elderly, now have to reduce their hours of operation or close down due to lack of funding. The elderly, those living alone or retired couples, now have few places to go, to ask, or to receive support, and they also don't want to bother their children, who are already struggling to balance work and the increasingly expensive cost of living. Wisconsin is not a demanding state, but the people here deserve to be heard, to be supported not with promises but with concrete actions. Because if even the hardest working people start to feel abandoned, then America is entering a phase more concerning than any economic recession. Illinois, especially the city of Chicago, was once the pride of the Midwest, a center of finance, education, and industry. Many families have lived here for generations, building a community closely tied to public schools, community health centers, and urban support programs. But in recent years, many people have started to feel that things are changing, and not in a pleasant direction. Housing prices and living costs have skyrocketed, while wages and pensions have not kept pace, especially for retirees living on fixed benefits. The public school system in many districts in Chicago is underfunded, there is a shortage of teachers, curricula have been cut, and special classes for disabled or struggling students have been reduced. Medicare, Medicaid, and community health services have been budget cut, causing elderly people to wait longer, travel farther, and in some cases, forego regular checkups. The costs of security, police, and fire services are no longer fully covered as before due to budget deficits at the state and city levels. But now, they feel they have to fend for themselves more, and not everyone has the health, technological knowledge, or financial means to do so. Illinois is not just Chicago. Rural and suburban areas like Rockford, Peoria, Decatur are also feeling the impact of inflation, budget shortfalls, and lack of public services. The government may call this restructuring, but the people call it losing what we once had, what we were once proud of. We just passed through 10 states, from the sun-drenched California to the quiet Wisconsin, from the proud Texas to the peaceful Oregon. And in each place, despite differences in climate, culture, or population, there is an undeniable commonality. The people are clearly feeling the consequences of policies decided from afar without consulting them. We do not deny that the budget must be balanced and the country needs reform. But reform does not mean leaving behind those who have kept this country standing for decades. And if there is one thing most regrettable in the current policies, it is that the voices of the people, especially those who are retired and have contributed their whole lives, are no longer being heard as before. Do you see these changes happening around you? Have you or your relatives ever had to cut back on spending, forego medical, educational, or social support needs due to budget cuts? Please leave a comment below the video. And if you find this video accurately reflects the reality you are interested in, please subscribe to the channel, as we will continue to produce content that analyzes, explores, and listens to you. The content of this video is compiled from public sources, policy reports, shared opinions from the public on media platforms, and neutral analysis. We do not represent any political party or organization. The sole purpose of the video is to create a space where people can reflect on the real impacts of policies and be heard. Thank you for watching until the end of the video. Hello, and see you again.